Look, I can flip this around so you can see yourself, or I can hide it from you.
Oh, let's hide it. I might get self-conscious.
I can flip this, you can view yourself if you want, or should I hide it?
No, hide it.
Yeah.
Just distract me.
I think that's the safer. I can flip this if you wanted to look at yourself, or I can hide that from you if you want.
No, I don't want to look at myself.
To try and be a man on the basis of having a penis between your legs, I mean, what does that even mean? If you start saying, well, if you have a penis, you have to do this, that's not an identity, that's a prison. So for me, the values of honesty, the values of integrity, the values of wanting to contribute to my society, these are the things that make me who I am. Not my maleness, not my manness. Is what are guys not engaging with as much, and that's one-to-one, literally face-to-face support. So there's something about this particular one-to-one, as in talking therapy, that men are not necessarily engaging with as much as their female counterparts.
I think sometimes getting people to come forward for the one-to-one counselling is the challenge.
There's something in that men either don't want or don't feel competent about, or find it threatening.
We know that men are less likely, as I say, I think the number of people locally, women are 3 times more likely to access our talking therapies, which is sort of counselling services. So clearly there is something that needs to be done to address that.
When we feel a young man needs to talk to somebody about their feelings, we try and make it more accessible for them, in as much as we will make it over a chess game maybe, to actually be doing something active that will maybe distract them from the awkwardness of the situation or the newness of the situation works really well.
We also find young men love going out for a drive. You know, they're stuck with you in the car and they can't get out, and if you give it enough time, then that can become an environment where they'll feel able to talk and be honest about where they're at.
People aren't making eye contact, there's other things going on, you've got sort of scenery going on outside, it feels less threatening.
And during that, or doing something, men are quite happy to open up and be vulnerable and talk about some really painful things, which would indicate that men don't have a problem being vulnerable. They just have a problem with certain ways of being vulnerable or certain formats of vulnerability.
If you can create a group setting where they know they're coming to that group to play that game because it's a support intervention, it does work.
No, I think we have to try and find a way to structure some conversation into it. It's almost like the Trojan horse sort of thing, really. I think if we just literally did an activity and didn't structure any conversation into it, it wouldn't have the same effect.
And using that shared aim, that shared mission, guys will pepper that ritual and process with emotional honesty through their work with each other.
You know, not exactly rocket science, that if you do something that men are, you know, traditionally more interested in, like football, more men will go along to it. And it could be right back to those cultural things, that in some ways it's more palatable.
Being part of something bigger than that's just them. And that's a really powerful thing, and something that's really important to young men, especially those that maybe don't have a strong friendship group.
Not only go to the group to take care of themselves and get something for themselves, they start going to the group because they want to give to each other, and they start empathizing with each other and want to help each other and be useful to each other.
I struggle within the charity to recruit males who will get involved in mentoring and counselling. Sometimes as a man wants to speak to a man, and you know that can be hard to enable because it just don't have the availability.
I would also love to see young people, parents, community leaders mobilised and trained up on how to support young people in their locations.
So there's been a lot of talk recently about looking at taxi drivers and barbers and tattoo salons and places like that as particular places where men might go, where we might want to target the messages, and also doing training with those workforces.
By teaching key members of the community here to spot folks who are losing their mental health and to have the skills to train those people who are losing their mental health.
So that they can actually, if a conversation naturally comes forward, they've got some idea of what to do with that conversation. Lots of high-profile people in the media, including plenty of men, lots of high-profile sporting role models coming forward to say they've struggled with their mental health. And I think when you see, Frank Bruno, who's a heavyweight champion of the world, boxer, and other boxers, and England football players and England rugby players, and high-profile musicians, and when people like that are coming forward and being quite honest about the struggles that they've had, it gives people permission to have the issues themselves. Because if someone that actually supposedly has everything going for them in their lives has struggled, well, then it means actually the rest of us who have more inverted commas normal lives, well, why shouldn't we experience those issues as well? I just think this is a really important subject, and I think us as men have to actually take a bit of responsibility and lead some of this.
I have a memory of a conversation I had with a trans man about that particular issue, which is he was talking about how going through his transition and going on hormone therapy and physical transition as well, he noticed how he moved from this emotional engagement, being emotionally sensitive, towards this more a less emotionally sensitive position. Basically, he described how going through his hormonal transition and physical transition, he stopped crying as much. He stopped feeling as moved as when he was pre-transition. So that got me kind of considering how maybe there's just something in the biological makeup of men that makes them want to engage something that's physically exertion. And, the one clear hormone that you'd probably start thinking about there is testosterone. Maybe testosterone is a hormone that provokes the need for physical exertion to get the energy out. Just that biological difference may provoke different preferences that have nothing to do with hypermasculinity or weakness, and everything to do with just the way the hormonal makeup of this person compared to this person means they have different psychological preferences. So I think we really need to be careful when we're talking about men's mental health, because in some sense that means absolutely fuck all. It's people's mental health, and yes, there are differences on average potentially between male psychology and female psychology because of hormones and biology and nurture and culture, but ultimately we're just talking about the mental health of human beings and recognizing difference and diversity within that.